Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? Hello, Rui MA. Hello. Hello, Prof. Caroline Chan. Hello, Fung.
Yes, loud and clear.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, so that's good. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, it's nice to see Rui MA is here now. Right? So yeah, I joined the talk last time with this Bukit Vista talk. That's the first time I saw Rui MA, and then I tried to contact her, and then it's very nice to have a, because she actually is willing to support our event today, which is very good. Yeah, so I'm going to, I think without any further ado, I just share the, the slides that I have already prepared, just to provide you with a just brief overview about the agenda that we're going to present today. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, this is the one. So I'm going to put it in the, yeah, this is the slide that I already prepared. So we're going to be using this, basically this is just to give you an overview, but what are the steps that we're going to be doing during this event. So welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for attending this, the talk. Right? So today we have someone from Silicon Valley, basically, right, who is joining us to give you a talk on the digital transformations in 2021, and then how business students should plan for their career. So that's the topic for today's talk. Now, before that, we actually go to the actual talk. I think I am going to just go to the agenda that we're going to be doing today. So this is the agenda for today's session. So there will be an opening by the UN Singapore PPC and CO, Professor Chan. And then the second agenda would be the preview by the UN Singapore Student Business Club. And then I will introduce the speaker, Ms. Rui MA, and the topic as well. And then Ms. Rui MA will go on with the presentations of the topic, just a brief presentations, and then we move on to the actual dialogue, right? The dialogue will be hosted by me and my colleague here, Dr. Pik Phung Yip, and then we're going to be, addressing some of the questions, both from us as a host and the audiences. So without any further ado, I will move on to the next agenda, which is the official opening by the UN Singapore PPC and CO. So I would like to invite Professor Caroline Chan to have the, to address the official opening for today's session. Professor Chan.
Right, sorry for the interruption. Rita, could you please record the session?
Oh, yes.
I think it is recording. I can see.
It's already recorded. I think it's already recorded.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Let me just double check.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ibu Rita. And thank you everyone for joining in, especially Ms. Rui MA and then Fung as well over in this Zoom meeting. So we already a year over with the tighter connection, but to keep the community safe. So we are in the partly lockdown at the moment in Singapore. So it is fantastic to have, all of you in the Zoom. So at least we have some activity here and we can share knowledge and learning together through this technology. So I'm very delighted to be able to participate in this webinar event organized by your program leaders. And especially it's important aspect of your learning when you graduate and build your career, especially for our students. And you would need to have some insight into the work that you've been doing. So I'm very, very pleased to actually be part of this and be invited by Rita and Fung to open this. So, and also when I'm looking at the topic is digital transformation, which is a very highly relevant topic, the area that very close to my heart. And many people think that digital transformation is just about an IT issue, but actually it's not. It's more about the people issue, the management issues, and the organizational issues. So I think all of those that you're going to hear from our industry leaders today. So we are very lucky to have Ms. Rui MA, who has been many years of experience in the company, and as well as I'm hoping that through the exposure through this Zoom meeting, and you would have a better idea in terms of the career that you're going to build for the future. But before I go, I just want to say a few words about UON Singapore. I don't know how many of you know UON very well, but UON Singapore is a company based in the Singapore that is wholly owned by University of Newcastle. And University of Newcastle is the top 8 university in Australia that has very strong research background. In fact, we here in Singapore, we already been here for over 15 years. We have about 20 staff members, and currently we are located in Samtek. But soon in October, we're going to move to a new location, which is in the new National Library. So a very iconic building, which we can be proud of as well. But as a student also, I would like you to be proud of the university achievement. So there are a few things that I would like to mention, just what is recently happened, So this year, the university has been awarded and recognized as #1 in the world of partnership to achieving the Sustainable Development Goal number 17. And we should be very proud of this achievement because it shows our commitment to partner in achieving the SDG, which is, I believe, arguably the most important issue in humankind is facing. And also it's aligned with the Singapore 2030 Green Plan, so I think we should all be very proud of it. But more recently, about 2 days ago, it was announced as well that the University of Newcastle are among the top 100 of academic ranking of World University ARWU in a number of subject matters. Usually this ranking is called Shanghai ranking, which is very famous and is assessed based on the research performance. And they have been named at the top 100 in the control and automation, water resources, as well as mining and mineral. So I think those just the two recent, most recent achievement that I would like to mention and keep you updated. So I think we can be very proud of the university as a staff members, as a student, and also as just people who's watching us now. So finally, I would like to thank you, Dr. Rita Pidani and also Fung, that have put a lot of work and effort to make this event possible. So thank you very much for your care and concern and, about the students and helping them to develop their career. So thank you again and enjoy the learning and enjoy this event.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Rita.
Thank you
for your support. Thank you for the message, Professor Chan. Thank you so much for that. Yes, yeah, thank you so much for that. So yeah, I think I'm going to move to the next one. So let me introduce you to the UN Singapore Business Club. So I'm going to invite UN Singapore Business Club to have their preview about the organization. So we have this small club within the business programs, Rui MA. So it's called the Singapore Student Business Club. So I'm going to I'm going to invite them to present just a sneak peek about the organization or the club, basically. And so I'm going to invite Yun Shi, which is the assistant event PR manager of the UN Singapore Business Club, and then Yi Ting, the assistant marketing manager of the UN Business Club. So yes, Yi Ting and Yun Shi, the floor is yours. Yeah, do you want to share your screen, Yun Shi?
Yes. Please wait. afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor to have these opportunities to introduce our UOM Business Club to you on this special occasion. First, I would like to introduce myself briefly. My name is Huang Yunshi. I'm from China, Guangzhou, and have just completed my MBA courses at University of Newcastle. And I'm the current Vice President of UOM Business Club in Singapore campus. Next, I will introduce the basic structure of Business Club, and our marketing assistant, Yi-Ting, will introduce the activities that our club is involved in. About what is a business club? Many students think just a sentence to write on their future resume, but our club is more than just a sentence. It can bring practical help to each member. So if you join in our business club, you can get more business experiences from the club activities and the communication between members. You can also make more friends and get more help and get to know mentors who can bring us help, such as today's special guest speaker, Mrs. Rui MA. And the business club is a platform for everyone to hone their leadership and entrepreneurial skills. So it makes sense to join in our club. The composition of our current community will be described next. This is our current membership list. Unfortunately, we can only do a brief introduction today because of the epidemic. In the future, you will have more opportunities to contact our members if you join us. The following part about how we can improve ourselves by joining business clubs, what activities do we participate in? Our marketing assistant Yi-Ting will do a brief introduction.
I'm Yi-Ting. I will talk about the events part. Our club participated in 2 events in the past 2 years. The first event was ICSB competition held by International Council for Small Business in February this year. This activity is about choosing a theme and using acceptable methods to communicate it. This theme selected by the business club committee was responsible consumption and production, reduce and upcycle food waste. To address this topic, our club made a proposal of customer value proposition and a proposal of potential business opportunities. This event allows every member of our business club to apply learned concept, customer value proposition, and experience the completion of activity with the help of the mentor and the collaboration of each member. Next slide. The second event was CPA Australia sharing session. This sharing session on financial industry was delivered by the business development manager of CPA, accounting professional program Australia. Within the sharing session, prospects and advantages of CPA qualification were mainly discussed by the speaker. This event provides further career prospects for business club members. And then next slide. And at a later date, UN Awards and the networking night will take place. It is the networking and awards event held mainly for celebrate understanding students, and then other attending members are participants, leaders, and professionals from multiple industries, as well as enterprises such as APM and global engineering. And then this event is an opportunity to network and discover your interest jobs and join ventures. And I have finished my part. Next, I will hand over to our Vice President to continue with the rest slides.
Thank you, Eating, for sharing. All in all, join our business club to put classroom knowledge to practical use, gain valuable networking opportunities, and expand your resume, or take a break from your study and have fun. I've always believed that we should do the right thing at the right time. After entering the university life, we should try new things that with a greater enthusiasm, so that we won't regret and can enrich our inner world. If you would like to join us, we have the following positions for you. Hope to help the students who have just entered the university life and who are already in our school. We welcome you to join us, not only to make more friends, but also to learn more about career planning. Here is our contact information. If you are interested in our club, you may contact our club advisor, Dr. Rita, our president, Junxiong Wang, or me. We all look forward to your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yunshi and Yiting, for the preview or sneak peek of the UON Business Club. That's very good. And so now, everyone, I would like to move on to the next agenda. I will actually introduce you to the speaker now. So yeah, Miss Rui MA. So Miss Rui MA, before she delivers the talk about the topic, I would like to introduce you. I would like to actually give you some overview of the profile of the speaker. So Ms. Rui MA has 15 years of experience in technology and finance, ranging from seed stage to pre-IPO investing in both the United States and China. She actually launched TechBuzz China in 2018 to educate and consult investors, funds and entrepreneurs on the products, strategies and trends of Chinese technology firms. She previously worked as an investment partner at 500 startups and spent a decade in private equity and mergers and acquisitions roles at Rain Group, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch in Silicon Valley in China. So Rui also has a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from the University of California, Berkeley, as well as degrees from Tsinghua, INSEAD, UI, UC, and Harvard. So it's very extensive, experience and knowledge there. I can see from this just a short profile. So yeah, I'm very proud that we can actually invite Ms. Rui MA today. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just invite Ms. Rui MA to actually present her talk. Yes, Ms. Rui MA, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Actually, I'm working with a friend of mine now, and she went to the University of Newcastle, but I think in the Australia campus. So okay, I told her that I was here today with, I think you guys, the Singaporean campus, right? So I hope everything is going well in Singapore with COVID. I am based in California right now, and yeah, things are good here. So I guess like for the format of the talk, I did prepare a couple of points to talk about. I think the topic is how business students can think about their career, like in today in 2021. And Rita, I'm guessing that you want me to reiterate some of the points that I said for the session with the Bali group. But I can also just have it more open to Q&A either way. If you had some questions prepared, I can also just questions.
We're gonna do that after your talk. Maybe we're gonna have the dialogue and question and answer sessions after your talk.
Okay, sure. Then I can just speak pretty briefly. I don't have a presentation. My dad was in the hospital, so I don't have a formal presentation prepared. But I've talked to lots of young people in the past decade or so. So I just turned 40, And you know, I do get asked a lot about career advice, especially for people who are looking to study or work abroad, mainly work abroad, because I did work for 8 years in China from 2008 to 2015. And that ended up being like 2007 to 2015, that ended up being like a very life-changing experience, which impacts still my career choices today. So I can sort of go over the things that I learned in my career and, you know, tell you my own story, and then hopefully it helps you decide about what you might be working on or doing. So, so you already heard sort of like the bullet points of my bio. A couple other things I wanted to add is that, number one, I was born in China and then immigrated to the US when I was 8. And, you know, when unlike a lot of immigrants, actually, I didn't go back to Asia very often when I was a child. So my family didn't have the resources. I didn't go back to China at all until after I graduated high school. And then even after that, very rarely. So I did not have any clear idea that I was going to work abroad. I thought I would just, you know, stay in the Bay Area, and I was studying engineering in college. And I intended to be an engineer, but as you know, I ended up working in finance and have been working in finance for basically the entirety of my career. And then I spent half of that career in China. So how did those things happen? I didn't plan for it at all. I actually moved for very personal reasons. And it just very luckily for me turned out to be a very good time. So when I was going to college, there was the dot-com boom, and bust here in the Bay Area. So I saw a lot of my college buddies go to startups, drop out of school, and then come back 2 years later or 1 year later because their startup failed and had to come back to college. So I saw that, and then I used the opportunity to learn a lot more about technology companies. And then I decided that I wasn't quite smart enough to be like my friends working in the technology companies, but I wanted to be involved in the companies somehow. And so that's how I ended up in technology investment banking, which is the finance part of the business. And I think that for me, I didn't have a very clear idea of what the industry was. All I sort of knew was that I didn't really want to do engineering. And I ended up in finance. And because I was very open-minded, it turned out to be a really, really great experience, a career that I really, really liked, and that I continue to work at. When the opportunity arose to follow my fiance at the time to go to China, I didn't think too hard about how it was going to impact my career. And I just went. It turned out to be one of the best experiences actually of my life. So that's probably the first thing I would like to share with, you know, the business students here. Even though I guess I technically studied engineering, I actually also got a business minor and eventually an EMBA. So I consider myself very much a business person. And one of the things I think is very important is that, especially in today's environment, where everything is so global and changing so fast. You guys are in Singapore, which is already a great place because it is so global. But I would also encourage you to work elsewhere, right? And working elsewhere, again, like you may not know, you may have some certain ideas of where you want to be and not get your first choice. But I think actually overall, it's not really about where you are. It's more about the change you experience as you do go abroad. And I know that for many of you, it seems like the student leaders who introduce yourself, you actually some of you are, you know, born in other countries and are studying in Singapore. I think that's already like a really, really great experience, the study abroad experience. But I think the working abroad experience is even different, right? It's even more different. And I think for me, now that I look back at my career, what I ended up being very lucky in doing is that, number one, I worked abroad, but I worked abroad for a pretty substantial period of time, so 8 years. I don't think that if you go anywhere, you don't have to stay 8 years, but at least, you know, a few years for you to get a really good lay of the land. And then I actually got laid off when I was in China because of the great financial crisis. So I had to find a different job. And that also ended up being a really good experience. I mean, it was very painful to be laid off. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying that in retrospect, it ended up being a really great experience because I had to force myself to go do something different. And so every time you do something different, you obviously learn and you acquire new muscles that you can then apply, new skill sets that you can apply to your career in the future. And so overall, that ended up being one of the best decisions of my career. And, you know, again, at the time, it was not obvious that the moving to China, moving to Shanghai in 2007 was a good decision to make, because I was in finance, I was in technology. I wanted to be in New York or London. Again, for personal reasons, I ended up moving to Shanghai. So I would not stress too much about where you go, but just make the move and then make the best of it. You never know what opportunity will arise, because again, things change really fast. So my first piece would be, like, from my own personal story, I feel very strongly, and I tell my, you know, people I mentor as well as my younger brother this, right? Go somewhere else and then stay for a while and really try different things. Another thing is probably don't specialize too early. So I started off in tech finance, and that's what I'm doing now. But in the middle, I actually did a couple different things, right? So I worked briefly in real estate, and I also worked briefly in media for, in total, about 4 years. And that's actually, if I was really stuck and said, like, I will only work on, you know, tech or M&A, the things that I had for the first 3 years of my career. And I was actually quite good at it, and I enjoyed, and I would continue doing. But, you know, again, like I said, I had, you know, had some career changes for reasons that were beyond my control. If I said, oh, I refuse to work on anything else except this because I want to, you know, accumulate just experience in this one narrow field, I would not be where I am today, where I can actually look at companies much more holistically, right? So it's especially important to my career as an investor and advisor to investors, but I think it's probably helpful. I would say, like, it's probably helpful for most careers. So don't specialize too early. I have a lot of younger, you know, people who ask me, like, should I take this job? But, you know, I already have 3 years of experience in this one thing. If I take this other job, I might have to start over. You shouldn't think like that. It's never about starting over, because the second time you learn something, you actually learn faster, right? So you should think about acquiring a new skill versus like dropping down the ladder and starting over. So that's something that I felt strongly about that really helped me. And then I would say also, for those of you, you know, in college today, the job that you end up having, maybe even 5 years from now, but probably definitely 10 years from now, there's a large probability that it doesn't exist yet, right? So when I was in college, and I studied computer science, and I was in Silicon Valley. And when I was graduating from college, like I said, I didn't want to be a software engineer, so I didn't really interview for most of those jobs, but I looked at the job openings, and I know what my classmates went and did. And there was no such thing as product manager back then, right? Product manager is or you know, data scientist, you know, or growth marketer, right? Any of these jobs that are very, very common today and are favorite jobs for MBAs, right? Or even business school students at the undergrad level. These jobs didn't exist. So, and I see that happening faster and faster, actually, the evolution is faster and faster. So your perfect job, or whatever you want to do, especially if it's related to something in the digital field or technology field, very likely to the job hasn't been created because things are evolving so fast. So don't get too stuck on the title or the specific job function, and realize that things are actually very fluid. So the future is not like the present, right? So that's another lesson I learned, because what I'm doing now today, advising funds, and also like, one of my job titles, or how a lot of people know me before they end up hiring me as a consultant, is a podcaster, right? That's not a job that existed, 10 years ago. And that's not a job I thought I would be doing. So yeah, so that's another thing. I think I have two other points I wanted to say. So the second to last one would be entrepreneurial. But also know that entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right? So there's a difference between being entrepreneurial and then actually being an entrepreneur. And even though I'm technically in business for myself, I don't actually really consider myself an entrepreneur, really, because I feel like, it's not the title I prefer to use. But I think what I see with a lot of young people I meet, and maybe I'm biased because I used to do early stage investing. So everyone I met was someone trying to start their own business. But I felt like a lot of young people I know give themselves a lot of pressure to be an entrepreneur, right? Because it's like the cool thing to be. And I would say it's really not the road for everyone. It's also not that glamorous, right? I can tell you as an early stage investor, there's like a lot of failure. There's a lot of heartache. A lot of people get depressed. We definitely had, not to be too dark, but we had several founders kill themselves, right? So it can be a very hard, lonely, it's stressful, etc. journey. And so don't give yourself too much pressure on what to do, but know that just the thought process of being entrepreneurial, which is being creative, being risk-taking, and being very brave, these are all things that are very favorable for anything that you choose to do, and in all the decisions you make in life, but especially relating to your career, and especially as it relates to any careers you want in digital fields. So, but yeah, you don't have to be too stuck on being the entrepreneur. And in fact, I would tell a lot of young people I talk to that, for your first couple of jobs, you might not want to be an entrepreneur, because you might actually want to be mentored and work with people who have a little bit more experience, so you can see for yourself, like what kind of leadership or what kind of skill sets or job functions you like. Versus just being stuck on, being like CEO or something. And the last thing is like, be consistent. I think I find this a lot because I do work with, the whole time I was working at a bank, obviously I had analysts that I was working with, people who were much younger than me. And then today I also still continue to work with some people, whether they be interns or analysts who are younger than me, who are much younger than me, who are your age. And I think overall, it's really about how I see people succeed, and myself included. I always have to remind myself is that the most important thing is to be consistent, right? Because again, there's so much change going on in the fields of tech, of the digital economy. It's really about showing up and being consistently learning new things, and about continually experimenting and doing, and not worrying if you don't understand something right away, or if you don't know something already, and just being consistent. So instead of like, the people that I see do really well are basically people who keep at it who keep at learning something for a long time, and don't think, oh, there's a great direction, let me do that. Oh, that was really hard for, I worked at that for 2 months and that was really hard, I don't want to do that anymore. Rarely see those people succeed, right? So nothing really gets you don't really get anywhere until you put in a lot of time, right? So like recently I've been, like I said, I do a podcast for content acquisition so I can get clients and customers. And, we recently hit top 100 in our category on podcasts. and you know, it was quoted in the BBC and Bloomberg and all this stuff. And a couple of friends messaged me like, "Oh, didn't know you were doing this. It's great." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been doing it for 3 years, you know." So you just have to keep on doing something, and then you will hit a level of success, hopefully, and you will learn a lot in the process. So yeah, those are my sort of brief thoughts. Hopefully that opens up the space for conversation and Q&A, and happy to answer any questions any of you have about my personal experiences or things that I see in the market or anything.
All right, thank you so much, Rui MA, for that very extensive experience that we listened from you there, which is very good. So I'm going to open the dialogue and question and answer session with the students, right? So maybe we take some questions first from the students, because I've got many questions in my mind as well. I would like to ask you after that, after that, what is it? That talk, that presentations, which is very good. So maybe we can have a look at the chat box. Maybe there are some questions that are already being typed by students. So so students, if you have any question, maybe you can type your questions, or maybe I can start with my own question first, and then it can trigger all of you to ask other questions. So maybe I can start, right, Phung? So we have the co-host here, Dr. Yip as well, who's going to be, well, asking question as well. So I think it's very interesting to hear the experience from Rui MA. So yeah, I think the first questions, when you talk about the entrepreneurs, and then you said that there is there is also the dark side of that because of the pressure that being given by, maybe by the process, right? And then the up and down of basically is the results that they expect, but it's not really happening. So how would be, what are the risks? How to reduce the risk? Like in order to make sure that you not fall into that kind of situations, right? So by being entrepreneurs, and then you said before that the path is not for everyone. So maybe that's my next question. So maybe the first question is, what are the way I think because of your experience, probably you already know that there are some ways to reduce that kind of risk of fall into that kind of, very, depressing kind of situations that you might end up doing, such thing, right? So is there any way to actually reduce that kind of, feelings? Maybe any idea from your side about, based on your experience before?
Yeah, so I think well, first of all, excuse me, there's been, I don't know how it is like in Singapore, but there's been a lot more discussion here in the United States, especially in Silicon Valley, about people's failures, right? So I think that's the first thing, where if you are going to attempt entrepreneurship, a lot of people, because of the fact that there's selection bias in the stories we hear, right? We generally don't hear about the failures because most people fail silently, right? They don't fail spectacularly. Whereas most of the stories we hear end up being spectacular successes. So there is this tendency to think that that is the only result, or that is the most likely result, when in fact, most companies don't do very well. Most people have a very tough time. And even honestly, the companies that do well tend to have a tough time in the beginning, right? So there is just a very long struggle. I think just having more conversation. And so if that conversation is not happening around you, then educate yourself. And there are now a lot more people opening up about their stories. There was a business partner that I I'll almost work with. He just opened up about his story, about his own failure. So it's Justin Khan. I don't know if you guys know who he is. People who play games might know. He's the founder of Twitch. .tv, the game streaming platform. And then he had another startup after that failed spectacularly. And I almost worked with him. He actually, we ended up not working together because he decided to go start that company that failed. And he talks very honestly now about why it failed. And it had a lot to do with, not starting the company for the right reason. And even though he was a very experienced entrepreneur, he didn't have the right expectations, and it was not a happy experience for him. So you can see, even with experienced people, that could be very tough. So if you're a new and first-time entrepreneur, make sure you educate yourself on these potential difficulties you have, and then ask yourself, like, the hard questions, like, is this what you really want to be doing? Are you ready? And if things go wrong and you need help, do you have a support system in place who can help you? So I think people don't, if you go in with that mentality of having the right expectations and also having a support system in place, hopefully the stresses and struggles hit you a lot less hard, and you don't get knocked over by the pain. So that would probably be my advice. But yeah, like I said, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. A lot of people, when they think very hard about it, they're not really thinking, they don't actually want to create something from scratch. They just want to, maybe manage people, or they want to grow something that's already successful. So, again, entrepreneurship, like, specifically doing 0 to 1 is different from managing a larger company or building on top of an existing platform, et cetera, et cetera. So just ask yourself, what are the real motivations you have for wanting to start something?
Yeah, so that's very good. So basically I can see from that answer that there are actually two components, right? So the internal sides, which is basically come from your side, and then the external, which is the support system that you said before. So support system, I think it depends. So it depends on the context. Sometimes you can find it easily. For example, in the US, you can find the support system very easily, but in other countries, maybe not. So maybe it's not really encouraging students to actually choose that path rather than, So basically they just want to graduate and then get a job rather than trying to initiate or start their own companies, right? So basically, so we need to see both sides, internal part, which is basically come from your own side, right? Where you have this, courage, you have your own motivation to start your own companies, but the support system sometimes doesn't exist. That's also another thing. So yeah, so maybe we need to look at those things. And then we have the students who have, they come from different countries. So maybe this is also the things that we need to consider in terms of the courses that we want to offer, right? Because if we want to teach about the entrepreneurship, but it's not really conducive when they go back to their own country to establish one, maybe it's not a good idea. So that's also the thing that we need to consider as well. Thank you very much for that, Rui MA. That's very good point. Yeah, so maybe we can move on to Phoong, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Rui MA, very, very good day to you, and it's a great pleasure to meet you online and share your great experiences with our students. And in our audience, we have some undergraduate students and also some MBA students. I can see some of my MBA students are here, and there are three very interesting questions in the group chat. One question from Vita, who is an MBA student. And another question is from Halim. He's also she. He's also an MBA student. And another question from Ega, who is our national lecturer. So there are three questions in the chat group. So perhaps
we
may want to address.
Yeah, Rui MA, you can go to the chat group and.
Yeah, sure, I can see it. Yeah. So the first one is. How do we think consistency in a very dynamic environment, because the digital world, things change very quickly? Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I meant by consistency was more like, maybe this is more for the younger students in the audience, is more about like showing up and then not giving up, right? So sometimes, I think that especially when I work with very, very young people, they like, if I give them some difficult task, right, or some task that is maybe not so fun, etc., then they start to really lose interest. And what I mean by consistent and showing up is actually just like doing all the things that are also not so fun or hard or straight up painful, and doing those things if that's what's required for you to get to your goal, and not like always be trying to figure out how do I avoid responsibilities or tasks, right? So I'm not actually saying that you should be doing something and not changing, right? Because yeah, that actually, I think the world is very dynamic, and you do want to make sure you keep up with what's happening, especially if you are working in digital things, right? So I think you guys probably know even better than me because of your age, you're younger, right? But like what I experienced over the last year is like I had to change my business model a ton, where I talk to people, how I engage with them. I now probably use, because of the pandemic, right? Because of the pandemic, you can't do offline meetings and can't do offline trips, which were a good source of income for me before. Now I have to do everything online. And now I just started working with someone, like I said, and then I was going over, I think I subscribed to 12 software programs now. And maybe 3 of them are new companies, I think, that didn't even exist 2 years ago. And then the other 7 or 8 are software that's been around a little longer, but I have personally never used them, right? So I am constantly acquiring new skills, even at my age, right? Just trying to get things done. And you definitely want to maintain dynamic because especially when it comes to technology, people are always coming up with new things that make it easier for you to do certain things, right? That you always want to try and experience, right? So I did a lot of stuff on Clubhouse earlier when it was popular. I don't think it's as popular anymore. But I haven't quite done, but I have definitely thought and think about doing TikToks for my own content. You have to even though I'm talking to hedge fund managers, but I've actually seen people, who do similar content as me, like serious investing content, like able to use those mediums to their advantage, right? So again, regardless of where you are in your career or what you're trying to do, you should always be maintaining the dynamic attitude and trying to learn new things. The consistency is not about not trying new things. The consistency is about when you try those things, sometimes they're hard or they're boring or whatever, they don't work exactly like you think, but you still have to do them. So that's what I meant. Yeah. Oh, I can just go through the other questions if you like. Yeah. So Edwina asked, what are some of the transferable skills that you think have aided you in succeeding in different business fields? So I think the main one, and the main one really is, well, actually there are a couple, but I think so I learned a really good analytical framework when in my first job in investment banking, but that's something I feel like anyone could learn. You could now probably go on to, I don't know, Udemy or something, spend $15 and get the same knowledge I got, working at Morgan Stanley for 3 years. I'm serious, you probably can. However, what I learned was working in a team, and then being flexible, and then working and also knowing my limits on how hard I can work, right? So I learned very early on that I'm one of those people that's totally okay working, through the night and then sleeping the whole next day. Some people can't do that, right? And then so if your brain just doesn't allow you to do that, then you want to learn that early on. And hopefully by the time you're in college, you already know whether or not you're good at pulling all-nighters and being functional. But there are these things about how you work, how you learn fastest, and what kind of pace of work you like. That those are not skills, but that's self-knowledge that actually really helped me a lot later on in choosing what to do. And choosing what to do, to be honest, is choosing what to do that is a good fit for you is one of the best ways to set yourself up for success, right? So if you know yourself really well, then you can choose the things that you can be more likely to be successful at, I would say. So, but other than that, I would say just things like communication and for me, I think general business development ended up being a common thread throughout all of my jobs. And that's just something I encourage everyone to be constantly doing, like meeting new people and getting and learning new things and getting information. How do you interact with people in a way that allows them to share with you so you can learn from them and build a relationship? That's probably, I don't know if that's helpful. That's like a generic skill, but I think that's that's probably one of my most treasured skills. And then should I just go through the questions?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. What are the skill sets and knowledge that investment firms look for in a candidate, and how diversity they would expect in an investment firm? Okay, so I think the first question is talking about an investment firm specifically. Yeah, so I can answer that. Our investment firm is really it's going to vary a lot on what type of investment firm, right? So again, I've worked for an investment bank, and I've worked in venture capital and private equity, and then I now work with, although not inside of a hedge fund, and they all hire very differently. I would say I would say in general, like an investment bank is like a professional services company. They're providing a service. So that's actually something they can sort of teach. So if you're at the junior level, they're really looking for just like hard work and just general intelligence. You know, you don't really need to come in with a lot of skill set or knowledge. If you're working in something where the deal sourcing matters a lot more, which is more like venture or private equity, then you have a leg up if you understand the industry, and especially if you have contacts in the industry, right? Because there's some proprietary deals that you can get. But again, it depends on the fund's business. Not all funds need you to do that. Some funds might just need you to do the analysis. And then if you are working if you're working at like a hedge fund where everyone can see the deals, right? Maybe you're just investing in, let's call it just a generic hedge fund. You're investing in public equities or something. Everyone can see the deals, so you don't need access to the deals. Then it's about your judgment and how well you understand the industry, and can you get a really differentiated, maybe more accurate analysis from information that is maybe publicly available. And can you integrate different pieces of information in a way where you can get an edge over other people? So that's and you don't really need to know people per se, but I would say all of these, anything that is deal related or transaction related, all of them, you would benefit from being from hiring someone. So you being a candidate who again is very good at building relationships and because even if you work for like a hedge fund, right? Like I consult hedge funds right now, they still want to talk to people in industry, right? So they could like pay. We pay for expert calls and stuff sometimes, but it's just much better if like you're someone who is very good at networking and learning knowledge from other individuals, and you're getting more authentic, hopefully deeper, more insightful information than paying some expert, right? So building relationships and learning from people is always going to be a skill. I think that is helpful for any type of investment firm. And then as for diversity, I think that varies a lot. I don't really know about Singapore market. I think in the US, there's more of a push towards, having a more diverse team. But that diversity could show up in, race, gender, whatever, sexual orientation, but also in work experience, right? So yeah, again, it's gonna vary a lot depending on geography, I think.
So, Rui MA, just to ask, in addition to that question raised by the students, so in terms of the skill set, you said before that the data becomes very important, right? Because they need to provide, for example, in investment, if you are hired by an investment firm, for example, you need to be able to provide, for example, your analysis of these external and internal factors, for example, of the economy, for example, and how does the investment is going to result, for example, if we invest, for example, right? So the clients would like to invest in that particular organization, for example, right? You need to provide the advice of what would be, the prospect of investment. So do you think that data analysis still play a very big role in the, within the next 5 years or maybe 10 years from now on?
The data, no. So I would say data and analysis.
Yeah,
so
I mean, like building the relationship with the client is one thing, right? Building the relationship with the client, but at the end of the day, you need to provide the service to the clients. And then if you're working for the investment firm, that means you need to provide the basically advice of what the market is going to be look like, for example, for example, next month, for example, because they're investing money, right? So we need to provide this service. So do you think that data analysis skill is one of the, maybe still going to be relevant within the next, maybe 5 to 10 years from now on?
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, I think the data, like the analytical side, is going to be less and less important, right? Because it depends on what you mean by the analytical side, right? Because the analytical side, if you're talking about just the mechanical analysis, right, that's going to be, again, especially in technology, there's so much stuff.
There's so many,
that's automated, right? AI is going to be software, whatever. It's going to be able to do it better and faster and cheaper, whatnot. But it is about the judgment. So everyone can have the same, everyone can have some data, and then but even judging what kind of analysis needs to be applied is actually a judgment thing, and that is something where you can add value, at least so far, as a human being. And then even after the results come out, what is the final decision you make? Again, that's also, at least as of right now, unless we're talking about like very specific, like a quantitative hedge fund or something, at least right now, right? It is still a human-based decision, and that is based on you integrating different knowledge, right? So the hope, and I'm not sure, by the way, like this is 100% like always the better outcome, but the hope most people have an investment fund would be that the more you know, the more like different pieces of information the more you can integrate them, right? Like and make hopefully a better decision than someone else who knows less information than you, or has done less analysis than you. I would say the mechanical aspect of the analysis it's not like it's less important, but it's certainly going to be augmented by technology. But of course, you're in school to learn the methodologies because you want to be able to set up the systems to interpret what's going on, right? Or else you'll be just at the mercy of software, right? Like, but you need to understand the underlying logic. So.
So the interpretation skills of the results, I think that would be also the important part, right?
Right, yeah.
All right, Rima, there's one question from our associate lecturer, Ega, in the chat group. His question is, for young business graduates, do you have any specific suggestions in terms of industry or jobs that we would be searching for?
For young business graduates, okay, well, I think this is very individual, depends on what your interests are, of course, but I would say in general, right, like assuming like most people in this room are interested in something related to the digital economy, then I would highly encourage you to do something that's new, right? So because that's where the most growth is going to be, and where you can get a lot of learning and a lot of like a responsibility pretty quickly. But by new, I don't mean working for a new company. I mean, like, consider some of the newest jobs that are out there, right? So like, I'm not that familiar with Singapore, but in the US, for example, in the past couple of years, it's a lot more or at least in the last year, for example, there's a lot more short video, right? If you're doing marketing, then maybe consider marketing in a new format, like short video, like TikToks, right? Or you can learn something really, really interesting, that you have like a really differentiated knowledge, and you also see the industry evolve and grow. I think that's very exciting. However, not everyone likes that, because those jobs will tend to be chaotic, right? Because if you think about it, if the platform that you're building your career on is constantly changing and it's only 2 years old or 3 years old, then it can be a very chaotic job. So you do want to make sure that that's something you're okay with. So I am only recommending that to people who are really interested in a very dynamic role, right? So if you that's what I mean by learning about yourself very early on and trying different things. By the way, you might think you like dynamic roles, but then you go work there and you're like, oh, actually I don't, right? So I know a lot of people who like find this out after they try a job, and you just won't know until you try it. But if I were, so maybe I'm just projecting my own interest, but if I were, a new student now, I'd probably be looking at working in short video, live streaming, things like that are really interesting, because I'm interested in consumer internet, and I always want to be figuring out the newest thing. Yeah.
Maybe we can move on to the next question. Edgar, does it answer your questions? And so it really depends on your own personal preference, right, in terms of the industry or job that you want to join in. So, but if you look at Rui MA, I think the interest is more towards the internet kind of, stuff. So marketing, that's what she's good at. Yes.
Yeah. So those are the examples I gave. But yeah, I mean, even again, like even in I don't know as much about other industries, right? But you also see that happening, like again, Silicon Valley. If you are interested in enterprise software, there's a lot of like low code, no code companies that are starting up that could be really interesting. So working on large system or API based whatever software companies. If you're more technical, yeah, you can look at all these opportunities, because a lot of these things are the future, right? Or people, like I talk to a lot of young people who are really fascinated by crypto. I'm a little iffy on how that all works out, but that's also just really, even if that doesn't really work out, to be honest, it's big enough, and if that's what you're interested in, I would go for it, because you're going to meet so many people, and you're going to learn very quickly if this is a field that you want to be in. So I wouldn't stress out too much about what role, and I would think more about so actually, Edgar, what I would say is I would not stress out about too much about the type of role, and so it depends on if you are someone who likes really innovative things, and then I would focus more on like the specific sector, and then also the stage of company. And I actually generally recommend, I'm not the only person who recommends this, a lot of us who've worked in early stage startups recommend a slightly more established company, especially if you're coming out of college, and not joining like a 2-person startup, and joining something that's slightly more established. So you don't, so you have a little bit more structure.
I just like to let you know, Rui. I just like to let you know, Rui, that Edgar is, besides he's actually an academic session academic to teach with us, he also has his own, I think, consulting or own organizations. We can say a company. So maybe you can become innovative to market your own organization, Edgar, by following the Rui MA style of marketing. Yeah, using TikTok to advertise your organizations or your company. Yes, okay.
Yeah, but I have friends who have done it successfully. Very, very interesting. So yeah, I have a friend who built a small venture fund based on his presence on TikTok and Twitter.
Yeah,
it's very interesting these days.
That's a good idea. And so we can move on to the next one. Next questions. We have many, I think. I saw many people typing now. Okay. Okay. None already. All right, I think that's the last one from any other questions, guys? For
Yeah,
Rui MA?
hello. Yeah, hello. I have a question. I think it's better
Okay.
to just talk than typing.
Yeah.
So as you said in the previous answer, that deeply understand about a certain industry is a really important skill when you want to apply into the investment firm. So I just want to ask about like the research skill. Like as you know that we have a lot of resources out there to read about an industry. So what is your step? What is your first step that you consider the smartest way to learn about a certain industry?
To learn about an industry? So, well, for me, I just like, so you guys are in school, you probably have access to at least like the school's library, right? So go through all the publicly available information. That's the minimum, right? So I think when I talk to when someone asks me about an industry, I think that is the minimum they expect to know, right? Like all the news, all the not super expensive industry reports, etc. And then I would say, if you want to go above and beyond and stand out as a candidate, you're really interested in industry, right? So for example, like I'll just use a specific example. If you're interviewing for investment firms, it's very common for people to ask you to come up with a couple of investment ideas, right? And write a pitch, right? This is where like, whether it be stocks or startups or whatever. And it would be you would definitely stand out if you actually talk to people in the industry, right? So by the way, like it's not abnormal for even very professional investors to be just like going to conferences and meeting people and trying to establish contact and ask them. But you know, you're a student, so you may not have the budget. Although I've done that before when I was a student, and I just volunteered at the conferences, so I could meet, you know, I could meet like famous people. And then you could also, honestly, just cold email and professional investors I know even use LinkedIn. They just like cold LinkedIn, you know, contact people. And if you send out like 300 invites, well, LinkedIn doesn't let you send out 300 invites a day, because I know there's a max, but like if you consistently send out, you know, requests, someone's going to say yes. And then when someone says yes and you have a good conversation, this is where that communication and relationship building skill is so important, because once you have one person in the industry that you know, and you make a good impression, then you can start branching out from there, right? You can start asking them like, hey, do you have someone else I could talk to? You know, etc. And yeah, you'd be surprised how open people are to this. And this is, by the way, how I find deals. Like I cold email people, right? I find them on LinkedIn, on WeChat, on Twitter, wherever. And I try to have a conversation. Of course, I go into the conversation with an informed, you know, it's not like I have no point of view. It's like I already studied all this, and then I have like a few very specific things I'd love to learn from you. And that's how you really research an industry. That would probably definitely, if you go to that level of research, you should be able to find a job, no problem.
We're using variety of platforms, Rui MA, right? That's that we have nowadays, Twitter, right? What is it? Instagram and so on, in order to sell yourself, basically, but in order to get the connections with all these, you know, all these organizations. Right? But I think the most important thing is how to build your resume as well, right? Because most of our students are, you know, newly graduates, and so as a fresh graduates, of course, they need to be able to, you know, build a very good resume in order to sell themselves to the organizations where they want to work. And so I think that's also one of the things that we probably need to address as academics as well.
Yeah. And I would say like, so even if you're a graduate, even if you're a new grad and you don't have any original ideas of your own, just you summarizing your learnings from reading someone else is a really good way for you to, number one, stay disciplined, right? And write and learn, but then also meet other people, because you're sharing your learning. So you're going to find other people who find what you say interesting. So this reminds me of like actually a kid I know. I call him kid, but he is a new grad from Singapore. I think he went to a different university, but he writes this newsletter called China Playbook. It's on Substack. It's on China tech companies. And I found him very randomly just on Twitter. And he's like building his own company, but all he's doing is he's taking learnings that he reads that he thinks are really interesting. He's summarizing them, he's annotating them, and he's sharing it. And now he's building like a couple thousand people mailing list. And he's able to meet people like me because I find the information. I'm like, oh, this is really fascinating. Thank you for doing this. Let's chat. I want to know why you're doing this and how can I help? So you'd be surprised, the kind of relationships and connections you can build just by sharing your learnings.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's very, very good point. So you can probably start your play, what is it? Fong is from Myanmar, I think. So play Myanmar book. You can try to initiate that one, start that one if you want to. Yes.
Right.
Okay. So
I think we have another question from Ku Yuan Rong.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do I need to have a proper skill set to go for future career beat in?
Yeah, actually, it's me.
Oh, okay. Hi. I'm not sure I understand the question. What is the proper skill set referring to?
Oh, the only thing that I have is like, it's very simple. It's more like my own basic of my own understanding of just like the accounting skills that actually, that's basically what I learned back from whatever I learned from the first trimester.
Yuan Rong is doing a Bachelor of Commerce, Rui MA, at the accounting, right? So accounting, what is it, discipline?
Mm-hmm. And so,
I'm not
what
sure
is
is that a future innovation, I guess.
Is that a future what? Sorry?
In innovation.
Is there future innovation in?
As in for the future industry, which like regardless of which country one stands for.
Mm-hmm. Wait. So you're. I'm still not sure I understand the question. Sorry.
Maybe you need to clarify your questions.
Perhaps I try to interpret the question from Yuan Rong. It is very challenging for students, particularly the fresh graduates, to serve through smoothly with this digital transformation wave. And also there are a lot of changes and also innovation in this digital transformation era. So students currently, they have this knowledge and skill set while they are studying, but this skill set may not be relevant and suitable when they graduate because of the fast changing environment. So,
I see.
So his question is, what are the proper skills prepared now to face the future career?
Yeah.
There's
again,
a proper skill set to face a future career actually, because as what I know, actually the China. Okay, for right now, and from my peers told me that like in the future, I know like China is like going to win over the US GDP, and like in the past, I have like a lot of like stereotypes about different countries. So that's why like I have to share my own like feedback and some kind of feelings and like my own like experience about this like that lah. Okay, maybe you understand. You say first.
I think you're asking about, or if I understood correctly from the phrasing, is that you're asking like, how do I prepare when the jobs are changing so fast, right? And I would say like in general for new grads, I don't think, especially in the US, so maybe a little less so in China, it's a little different. They have a lot of time the last year of work. The last year of school is like internship year. I had a lot of like full-time interns their last year of school. So it might be a little different in Asia, but I can say that for the US, for new grads, like no one's really honestly expecting you to know anything other than, what you studied in school. However, you stand out if you I'm going to be much more likely to hire someone who's actually done some experimenting on their own, right? So again, using easy examples on software products you guys probably all have used, but like if you're trying to get a job at YouTube, like a very generic job, it would help if you try to create content and actually used like, you know, the YouTube product, you know, and you know what I mean, right? So there are a lot of things actually you can do, you know, but before you, and by the way, YouTube, if you were a creator and you try to do things on YouTube, the platform, it would probably make you stand out, not just by interviewing for a job at YouTube, but in any company where they use like digital marketing, right? Because then you can be like, oh, I have some experience. I've spent whatever 300 hours playing on this using this platform as a, not just as a viewer, but also as a creator, right? And you know, I have, you can check sort of my track record or something. So I think for you, don't worry about the skill sets in the sense that, you know, you shouldn't stress about like not having the exact skill set that the company wants from your academic studies, because that's just gonna be very hard. That's not really what school is for, but you should also be spending time acquiring new skill sets. And in this process, hopefully, as you try out different projects, you could discover what you like, right? So hopefully that helps you in your job search as well. Does that make sense? Like I have a lot of maybe it's because I live in Silicon Valley, but I have like a lot of friends who are a little older than me. So they have kids that are teenagers, and their kids are like influencers on, you know, like on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And they're telling me like what software to use, right? So it's pretty crazy.
Okay, is that answering your question, Yuan Ron? Yeah, he said makes sense already. Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think there's many key points that I can get from Rui Ma's explanation. So be open-minded, right? So being brave to try new things, right? So do not, you know, constrain yourself with whatever you do at the moment. So I think that's the most important thing. But sometimes, you know, Rui Ma is easy to say, but it's you know, because I think everyone has different paths, right? In terms of their knowledge, in terms of the education journey. So yeah, I think the most important thing is how to actually search for the information as well, right? Because if you want to be like you, for example, so you have tried so many, you know, you got so many certificates from, you know, many disciplines, right? You try many things, right? But this one, sometimes, you know, we have the financial constraint in order to do that, right? So to try new things. So maybe informations as well, access, right? Because there are some scholarships, for example, that maybe students do not know that they can actually, you know, get and then, you know, pursue the new things that they like more than what they're doing at the moment, for example. So those are the things probably can also help the students to, you know, open or broaden their, you know, their skill as well, expand their skills in the sense like, you know, having new things, for example, new knowledge or new search for samples for new things that more, relevant to the current industry demand, for examples. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Phoong, any questions from you?
All right. I think I will have two questions to ask on behalf of our students here. I believe that some of our students, after they graduate, they would like to work for a few years and then to gain some experience before they make the decision to pursue their master's degree or PhD degree. Okay, so Rui Ma, perhaps you can give us some your opinions. What would be the new key areas, okay, in the near future market or in the workplace that our fresh graduate should focus on, so that they can sail through this digital age smoothly and successfully. And perhaps for students who have the intention to pursue their master's degree and a PhD, what are the relevant degree, and perhaps what are the major in the MBA program could our students be considered?
Yeah, okay. I think that, well, I think for the MBA program, this question, I could be, again, biased, but like one of my friends is one of the vice deans at Wharton Business School, and he told me that their highest number of graduates now are going to the Bay Area to work in tech as product managers. So, and that's been happening, I think he said, for the last 5 years, right? He said something like Facebook was the biggest biggest like employer for the program. Yeah. And they have quite a large program. They have like almost 1,000 MBAs a year, I think. So I would say, if you were judging by, because I don't really know how, you know, the entire job market is, but my perception is that a lot of people who end up studying business end up working in some kind of product management right now. And the reason I think it's very easy for me to understand is because the product manager position, not in every company, but in some companies, is kind of like a mini CEO, right? Where you are managing different, you have sort of a vision and a thing that you're making, and you're in charge of it, and you're grabbing resources, technical resources, marketing resources, like whatever, and you know, trying to get the budget, and then trying to achieve a certain level of success, etc. All these things. So it is like it's like a little like being a CEO. So a lot of people go into it with the idea that they want to see if they actually can do a startup after, if they enjoy the experience, and if they can put together a team and manage a team really well, and actually build something inside a larger company, right? If they feel good doing that, then they can go and do their own startup. That's the impression I get. Now, for the people who are graduating today, again, like I said, you know, when I was graduating, product manager is not a position. So if you're graduating today, who knows what it is in 5 years or 10 years that could be really interesting. I would say just stay open-minded, but you know, regardless of what the name of the job is called, probably the most popular is going to be something similar to this, where you're not repeating the same thing over and over every day, but you're working on dynamic projects and growing things. That's probably going to be the most popular.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of adding to that, how about the commerce side, Rui MA? Would you recommend students to look at the commerce, right? Because nowadays I think the supply chain or the logistic management becomes very important as well, with the use of this technology that we have nowadays. So do you have any idea about, you know, what would be the prospects, or, you know, for students if they want to join the, you know, company in the logistic area or commerce, for example? So marketing things, right? It's more towards distributions rather than looking on how to create the new products or new brands, for example. So, yeah.
I think that like, for example, supply chains and logistics, all these are sort of quote unquote old traditional industries that are actually very quickly being replaced by technology, right? So it's maybe not quickly enough, but it's happening. And so I would say, even if you are, because the topic of this group, I think, is digital transformation, right? So you will see, I think it's clearest in China because manufacturing is there.
Yes.
Yeah, but basically, you're
services industry.
Yeah, in the next couple of years, the manufacturing industry has already become extremely, you know, tech intensive, but is going to become even more so. So the more, I guess what I would say is, if you decide you first, you know, you really like logistics and you think it's an industry you want to be in, regardless of what industry it is. I think there are very few industries that are not to be affected by tech, right? And supply chain being definitely one of them. I would think that supply chain, yeah, if you go into a job in it today in 2021 or 2022, 5 years from now, that's probably actually going to experience a lot more. It's going to be a lot more digitized. It's going to look a lot more different than like a consumer internet company. It probably look the same 5 years from now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any more questions from students?
I actually wanted to add something, and I wanted to like add just a little bit more on, you know, I would encourage students these days to really establish a presence for yourself, like online. I don't necessarily mean like go be an influencer, right? I mean, think about what you really like and what you really want to learn more about. And then, you know, what these days, I think it's popular to call it learn in public, right? So I used the example earlier of the Singaporean fresh grad who is writing that newsletter on, you know, China tech learnings. It's not his own ideas. He's just synthesizing what he's learning. And he's doing some translation. So there's like a lot of value, but even if you're doing it in the same language, it doesn't matter. I have another friend who literally like compiles like the you know, interviews of famous investors because he's really interested in investing. Those interviews are in English. His summaries are also in English, but he summarizes them in his own way. He explains his learnings, and it's done in such a nice way that he's able to attract a lot of people onto his website. He doesn't make any money from it, but he was able to meet so many people who are great investors who read those and were like, yeah, I really like what you've done here. You know, thank you. How can I help? How can I help you? Right. So when you do something nice for other people, you'll get a lot of feedback and you'll get a lot of connections. So don't get stuck if like you're like, oh, I don't have original, you know, I'm not inexperienced, so I don't have original thoughts and I can't, you know, write a blog. Yeah, it's okay. Like take other people's ideas, really study it, and then add your own spin or reorganize it or translate it, do whatever, add some value and then put it out there and do it consistently, right? Again, do it consistently. Both of these people I'm talking about did it for months, if not years, right? But then you'll derive a lot of value from it. You'll be really surprised, like what kind of connections you can build even as a very young student. Yeah. Sorry, there's no. Digital innovation changes. The cultural industry will not be replaced by AI. Well, it depends on what you define culture, because media is very AI driven, I would say right now. Maybe not replaced by AI, but yeah. The recommendation
yes,
is all AI. and there's plenty of virtual avatars. People are trying to make money off of that as well. I guess in your view, how did COVID push companies over the technology tipping point and digitally transform their businesses? What are the challenges? Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like I live in the US, you really see that companies, even the internet companies here, struggled with remote work, right? Not everyone was set up for remote work. So people realize that they have to be ready for such disasters in the future, and their organizations cannot be so fragile. They can't just have one way that everyone works together and then can't adapt to changing conditions. So everything is becoming more digital. I would say specifically, we see that retail here, there is a lot more push for you know, in the West to become more like the East, actually. So again, not as familiar with Singapore, but like China actually has a really good retail you know, system that is where the online and offline is much more integrated. And you saw that here in the US that broke down very quickly, right? Even though I could go to, let's say, Walmart, and I could go to walmart.com, you would find that like actually the inventory is like not synced up. You could order something and go to the store and it's not there, right? Like all these things happen because the business was not sufficiently digitized. And I think all the businesses here, especially in retail, realized that they needed to do that. But there was no push before because things were okay before the pandemic. And then for, again, the business processes, the companies are realizing that they need to be more digitized overall. I think actually in China, there are better examples. So a core example is like in China, like they used to not have e-signatures, not accept e-signatures as much, right? But because of the pandemic, everyone's like, okay, I need to accept e-signatures. I'm much more open to electronic documents now. And then you can think about like the efficiency of the entire, if the entire country all of a sudden is like, oh, we're better with electronic documentation, that level of efficiency is very, very helpful for the entire economy. Anyway, hopefully I answered that a little bit. Yeah, the new workforce for the new normal. I don't know that anyone's figured that out yet. Even Silicon Valley companies are like, I don't know if you guys read the news, but one day they're like, don't come back to the office. It's fine to be remote. And the next day they're like, come back to the office. And it's like,
we're having that now, Rui MA. Previously,
yeah,
we are allowed to be in the office, like 75% of the workforce are now, at that time, were allowed to be in the office. And now we're going back to, I think 50% now. So it's sort of like, yeah, because the increased case of pandemic in Singapore, currently. So yeah, the government is putting a constraint. And in that means we actually back to the, when we were still in the, what is it? I think February this year, where we have like 50% workforce allowed to go to the office. So yeah, going back to that, to that period again. So it's up and down. So hopefully everything is going to be over soon. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit different in the US because what happened is the lockdown was so extensive that many people like changed their lives, right? Like I have many friends who moved away, and sold their cars. Like some people like bought a new house elsewhere, expecting that they can work from home. And then now if the companies they work for are saying, we don't let you work from home, then they have to, again, change their life, right? Or I think a lot of them are complaining now and are saying, well, why can't we work from home or work from a different location at least, or have some more flexibility. But yeah, you're seeing companies trying to struggle and trying to really understand what is the best way to organize people now that people have different expectations. Yeah. And then, sorry, I'm understood from you interpret as I research online. I'm not sure I understood that comment, but Winston has a question about how we can secure and safeguard trust, transparency, ethics and integrity in a district. Oh, that's a very big question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You see the governments globally trying to work on this, right? As everything becomes digital, we don't have a lot of agreement with each other, but definitely not at the government and policy level on what to do, right? We're still trying to figure out as societies, like, because the digital transformation, when everything becomes more digitized and connected, right, through bits, which are programmable and move much faster than atoms, all these things, they really transform society and we can become more connected and more open. But then more connected and more open also comes with it some risks, right? So you ask a very good question, but I don't think I have an answer for it. I think we're trying to figure that out. And what I think is interesting, though, is that different countries are trying. So if we look at the entire Earth or entire globe, each country or each region has different ideas and philosophies depending on their culture, depending on their history, depending on their social structure of what is the right thing to do. And we'll see in a few decades if they made the right decision for their society, or if there is a optimal solution. Maybe that works for the whole globe. I don't know, right? Because even the fact that each country or each region has different rules could be very problematic, right? So this is too big of a question for my small brain.
Yeah, Rui, there's a question from Yiting. This student would like to mention that she has taken data analysis, digital marketing, international marketing, management, HRM, and all these courses are being studied. And she's confused about which position should she apply when she graduates.
Well, definitely go with the one. So I would say prioritize the ones that you enjoyed the most. But I would, again, the courses don't always map exactly to the jobs, right? So I always encourage people to do informational interviews. So if you have so for example, if you decide international marketing, it was your favorite class, and so you place at the top of your list, well, then make sure you go talk to, 3-5 people who have done jobs in international marketing. And an informational interview is basically just asking them what's can I ask you about your job? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? From my college education, I was very lucky in that my undergraduate program actually had these things called externships, where we could actually go, shadow someone for, I think it was up to 2 weeks, or it was either 2 days or 2 weeks. I can't remember. It was a very long time ago. And I learned a lot from the process because believe it or not, I originally thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Or not once, but I considered becoming a lawyer, but I didn't know anyone who was a lawyer. So I did one of these externships during winter break, and then I decided, no, not interested. So save me a lot of time, right? Save me a lot of time, because I actually shadowed a lawyer and I saw what he did, and I was like, this is not interesting for me. So I encourage you to do that.
Rima, that's the new term, externship. That's the first time I hear that term, because we normally hear the internship, right? That one is pretty different. Yeah.
So I went to Berkeley, and that's what they called it, the externship program. But you can also just do that. That's more like you actually shadow someone in their office. May not be that easy to do. Because you kind of need permission, and usually you go to alumni. But you can also just do informational interviews, right? Talk to someone or talk to alumni. Alumni usually pretty helpful. And just be like, can I get half an hour? And I just want to know, what is your job like? What do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? And how, and also ask that person how they made the decision to go for that job, right? But once you talk to a few people, you should have some idea if you think it's interesting. And if you don't, then you just need to have more experience. If they're giving you a lot of information on the job but you still can't imagine it, then that's actually because you don't have enough experience on your own, and you just need to go and either do things or just go take a job and be okay with, if it's something you really hate, then you need to find another job, right? So I would say don't worry. You guys are all young people, and I'm sure you have relationships, right? You don't probably, I'm guessing most of you probably don't expect you to find your husband or wife or whatever significant other on the first try. Maybe you do, I don't know, but it certainly took me a very long time. So then you shouldn't have the same expectation of your job, right? So it's just a learning experience. You get better at job searching.
I think there are still 2 questions from Ku Yun Rong. One question is about the trust, trust of the resources of the future digital innovation and digital perspective of the future workforce. And his second question is, do you think that this, in the future, the accounting, the knowledge and the skills will be replaced by the computer system artificial intelligence for accountant.
Well,
So
all right.
let's
Because
add
I
on
think
now
he's
two
the
more
accounting major,
questions
right?
because I don't have the like the type of confidence of like the type of trusting like it's only like around my like the teen years means like was like after around like in Singapore we call it at secondary one to around like probably JC level. So I mean I believe maybe your side could be like maybe high school or what because that's the thing I mean can say lah. Because when I was like 13 to about around right now 21 or 22, like I don't really have much trust about like understanding this and that like you know, because last year I think I heard some people talking about AI, like be it whether is it like whether it's like my like the previous lectures back then in diploma they talk about it and I don't really fully understand that whether is it really true AI is like it influence all parts of like the type of like systematic like be it globally or what I mean. Because from what I checked out back in there in 1978, I do know that 1978 is like US is one of the superpowers. So back then I have a lot of like the type of like stereotypes. So right now, because China is getting more globally becoming a superpower, so that's why I'm just putting this into two hands. So okay, the main important thing is like because of this and like the type of like a bit of like cultural influences, like it's like very simple. Like this type of cultural influences is a bit like affected my own trust lah. I think that's a simple thing I can explain to you. Wait, do you understand what I say? Wait, sorry, because I think I'm not sure whether I say it's understandable or not.
Yeah, I think maybe I probably can summarize what Yuan Rong is trying to ask them, Rima. It's about the AI, right? Because I think artificial intelligence has been like, you know, all over the place now. People are talking about it. And then some students are, and then there's some, you know, basically the idea is that in the future, people will be replaced by machines or robots because of these AI inventions, right? So I think that creates like you know anxiety or concern with the generations, young generations, because they feel that in the future they will be replaced by robots and that there will be no more jobs for humans in the future. So I think that would be the idea from that question. So how to actually, I mean, is that really true that we're going to be replaced by humans in the future and there would be no more works for human? So and what would be the leftover for human then? That would be.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I think jobs are a pretty recent phenomenon. So in human history, having a job and having a salary is actually, you know, in the last couple hundred years only. So I'm sure humans will figure out how to reorganize. So don't have job anxiety, and even you know because if it happens, it'll happen to everyone. It won't be just you. Number two, specifically on AI, you know, that's always a possibility, of course, that AI becomes so powerful, right? That like it will be able to replace humans in these functions. But again, I asked you to think about like if the purpose of a job is to, you know, have a salary so you can pay for yourself and live for yourself. I'm pretty sure like that society will just simply reorganize so that, you know, unless we're all killed off by AI or something, we will be fine, right? So just the current rules and the current definition of a job and why you need to get a job, those things will change. That being said, AI is nowhere near that right now, right? So AI is really, really not intelligent, actually. So I don't think you have to worry about this. Maybe your kids have to worry about it. And if anything, you will have to work with AI and you will encounter AI in everything, right? Like there's a lot of AI in every picture you take. I don't know if you're aware, like every photo you take on your smartphone, there's AI that makes the picture look better. Like processing it so that's why, you know, different phones can say, oh, we take better pictures than the other phone. Well, because there's software in there and it's AI powered. And so AI is everywhere. It's going to augment what you do. It's not going to, at least right now, it's not going to fully replace what you do. So I wouldn't worry about it. You should not be anxious, but actually appreciate that AI will make your job more efficient so that you can hopefully do higher value things, more difficult things, or just simply do more things, right? Like I use a lot of software these days. Like I said, I subscribe to like 12 different software programs now or something. And I use a lot of automation. It's not quite AI, but like I use Zapier. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's like a $4 billion company that uses APIs to connect things, right? So that if I have a new subscriber and I want to, send them an automated email or, whatever, do something. I have a quiz. Sorry, I have a quiz for my community and they need to pass it for me to trigger an activation. I don't need to do all that manually. I do that via software, and that's good for me, right? I'm not concerned about being replaced. I'm happy that it'll help. So don't stress out about AI. You have plenty of time to adjust, even if that happens. Yeah, it's not going to be like tomorrow, all of a sudden.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of time. And then digitizing business has been turbocharged in the most recent years. How has government prepared the nations for digital? How has government prepared nations for digital readiness? So more local. I mean, that's really dependent on your government. I think Singapore, if my understanding is correct, is one of the more active governments. In the US, far less so. The US is very, believes in free market. It's a very much invisible hand. Government doesn't do very much. In China, we see, and in other countries, we see things like digital currencies being pushed out by the central government, right? China is now doing a e-RMB, and that should have some impact on businesses. There's already a lot of mobile payment there, so I'm skeptical how much it will help, but it could help. It could be more helpful and reduce friction when it comes to doing businesses. So yeah, there's a lot of things that governments can do, but I'm curious why you asked this question. Actually, it seems very like broad.
Yeah, so it really depends on the government, right? In supporting the transition from traditional to become digital businesses, right? All over the place, yeah.
I mean, China does a lot of. Again, just comparing the U.S. and China, U.S. doesn't do that much. China will adjust like tax subsidies, government grants, but taxes is probably the thing they adjust the most, depending on what part of the economy they want to incentivize, right? And it could be different tax breaks depending on how big your company is, right? So once you get a little bit bigger, then I don't care about you. But if I want you to encourage new businesses, then maybe I give really, really like very attractive incentives in the beginning. And for taxes, that's just, yeah, it's really, really helpful for businesses to not have to pay taxes.
And the last one, I think, in Singapore, we have enterprise SG, right? Schemes that help the food and beverage sector to digitalize their businesses. And that's
I think Singapore's even maybe it sounds like if the government is doing that, then it sounds like it's maybe even more extreme than China. But yeah, it entirely depends on the country. In the US, we have nothing. We have human ingenuity. So yeah, we have the free market. That's what we have. So
I think it's because of the the size of the country as well, Rui MA. I think managing a big country such as US is not the same as managing a small size country like Singapore, right? So I think that's also one of probably the difference between the two countries, and that's that makes the government here easily to look after the people, the citizen, by providing all these facilities.
Yeah, size, but I do also think philosophy, because even of course 300 million people is a very large number, a very large population to take care of. But even if it were smaller, I think even if we look at the city level, I don't think there's any any motivation to interfere, because the fundamental belief in the US is that the free market is best, and any kind of intervention is actually harming the business, right? Is harming innovation, because if you think about it as the free market being the purest signal of how to innovate and how to grow, then any intervention is like dampening that signal. But that's obviously not what other countries believe. So yeah, then everyone will choose a different path depending on their core beliefs.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? In what ways we can protect our digital asset as an individual or self-employed, as digital business and digital currency are becoming more prevalent, right? This one is also very trending at the moment. We are moving to the digital currency, so.
Digital, well, if you're specifically talking about crypto, I mean, you would have to look up ways to, if you're talking about digital assets as in your crypto investments, is that what you're asking? Then you definitely just have to use very secure ways or use very secure platforms. I'm not sure if that's the question, but I think actually in general, the way you should think about all this stuff is that if I were you guys, right, you guys are very young, and you should definitely be spending a lot of time reading up on this stuff, and don't think about it as like, oh, this is happening to other people. This is happening right now. I know many, many young people who made a lot of money or made a lot of
profit out of the,
they could make a lot of money or whatever. I'm not encouraging to speculate. I'm just saying that they learned a lot or met a lot of people and learned a lot about themselves from studying these new technologies, right? So these are things that, and by the way, I do too. It's not like, I also encourage older people to don't think of it as just a young person's thing. This is happening right now. This is a global thing that everyone's talking about. I don't think anyone fully knows what is happening, but you want to keep up and you want to try to understand the conversation, right? Because I guess what I would say is, in the whole grand scheme of digital transformation, the most important thing is to think of yourself as a participant and not as digital transformation as something that is happening and then you're just watching, right? No, think of yourself as a participant. You can be part of it, and when you're older, you can tell your grandkids or whatever, like that you saw this happen and you saw the world change, right? And you were able to take advantage of it with your life decisions. So it's a big trend. Digital currencies are indeed a big trend. I don't have any advice on specifically protection, but yeah, I would use the same
platform. I think that would be Rui MA. Do you suggest that if they want to get involved in the cryptocurrency, for example, digital currency investment, they need to use the safe platform?
Yeah, if you do want to invest, make sure you understand what you're investing in and why. And yeah, again, these things there's so much reading out there. I would just encourage you to use the internet. Yeah, use Google, and then ask friends. And then again, don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask for their advice, right? So I hope like one thing that you guys take away from this is that the internet has made everyone just so open to being connected, and so don't get stuck into like, oh, I can't connect with this person because I don't know them, or we're not in the same country, or they're older or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Like just try. So
just like I tried to contact you and then you respond to my invitations, Rui MA.
Yeah.
We haven't met, right? Physically, we haven't met physically, just online.
Yeah, I do a lot of deals this way too. So you never know. And by the way, someone could be busy and they don't reply, right? I think Rita, you messaged me and then I was on vacation or something, yes. And then but eventually maybe they'll reply, or if they don't, it doesn't matter, right? Just think of it as like, if 1 in 100 people reply, costs you nothing to reach out.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I guess we're nearly there, 2 hours. I think that's the allocated time for this one. Yeah, right. So I will invite Fung to actually, you know, provide the summary maybe, or you want to say something about the, there's so many key points that we have learned today from Rui MA's, you know, Rui MA's talk, guys. So yeah, I have learned a lot of things, and then it also inspired me to provide some more things to the students as well, especially the externship, the new terms that I learned from you. So that's the first time I heard it. So I'm going to probably propose, you know, maybe to the management, if possible, to introduce the same thing to our students here. If possible, if it is not possible in Singapore, maybe we can try it in Australia. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, Fung?
Yeah, indeed. This is a very, very active, and very interactive, as well as a very fruitful session for students and also for staff. Okay, just some takeaway is that Rui MA, you shared with us a lot of useful tactics and also strategies. Okay, to reduce the impact of failure. And also how to bounce back when entrepreneurs, they are facing challenges and failure, okay, in the journey. You also share with us, okay, the new key areas in the coming future that are needed in the market and also in the workplace, and what skill set that students need to emphasize, okay, and also pick up these new skills to face the challenges of the near future, and also perhaps if they are pursuing the intention to further their degree, and what are the areas that they should major, okay, and also what are the degree that they could consider in the near future. And also we have discussed a lot of this macro perspective as well as the micro perspective, how to prepare ourselves, okay, more successfully to face this digital transformation in the very near future. Okay, and we also discussed the current situation of COVID-19 pandemic. Okay? So this is a very, very interesting platform for us to share experience and also knowledge. Thank you very much, Rui MA, for your very kind sharing and also very insightful, okay, and also details, okay, of what actually happened in the current workplace and also in the competitive landscape of the business world. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So maybe, there might be another opportunity which I might be inviting you again, Rui MA. So, so please do not, feel annoyed if I probably contact you again for another opportunity. So I might be inviting you for a guest lecture, maybe for my, for my courses that I'm teaching at the moment. So yeah, that would be my plan. I have that in my agenda already, so maybe I will contact you very soon. So thank you so much for sharing the, a very, all of them are from your experience, and then we learn a lot from your experience, right? So because you have extensive knowledge and experience, and then not only from one discipline, you've got so many, many areas that you already covered, and then you now become the, become the mentor as well for the startups. I understand that. So are you still doing that, the mentorship for the startups? I think you have been the partner for the 500 startups before, but are you still doing it as the partner of this?
Not as much currently. Not as much currently.
I see. Yeah. But you've been there, right? So basically you have the extensive experience as well in mentoring the startup. So yeah, so everyone, the students that we have in the audience at the moment, if you have any, plan to start your own business, maybe, you want to catch up with Rui MA in terms of the strategies, because, she's been there. She's been helping the startup as well before. Right? This is actually, I'm introducing you to Rui MA in order to open your network as well, in terms of, what are the possibilities in the future that you might be, proceeding, right, pursuing, right? Are you going to become entrepreneurs, or are you going to join the workforce? So there are two pathways that you might be doing once you graduate. So this is one of the opportunity, because you can expand your knowledge, extend your knowledge, and that's the reason why I invite Rui MA today for that purpose. Yeah, so thank you so much, Rui MA, for a very insightful sessions. I hope students can learn a lot. They can also, you know, reach out to you just in case, right? So yeah, they can open your LinkedIn